Alright, moving on to strength. This is the highest level of the strength arcana, which is Siegfried. Siegfried is the Germanic name for Sigurd, which is a Norse folk hero. The description here is pretty consistent with the descriptions. Additionally, from killing Fafnir, he also gained treasure from it, and also by bathing in its blood, he also learned the language of birds, and was thus able to find the Valkyrie Brumhild that was trapped in basically a column of fire. The weak spot that they described here from the leaf that was not soaked in the blood of the dragon was basically, I think, between his shoulder blades, where during a certain feud he was actually stabbed during a hunting trip. So next one, Kali. Kali is usually associated with a goddess, is basically the goddess of death and also of disease. And her associations with Shiva, from what I saw from my resources, they usually say that she was actually the one that killed Shiva, actually, and danced on his corpse, which explains why she's often depicted in Shin Megami Tensei as kind of dancing in a circle. But, well, pretty much above it all, she's basically associated with plague, death, disease, basically evil, or everything evil associated with death. Okay, moving on to the next one. The next one I think is Narasimha. Narasimha is actually one of the incarnations of Vishnu, and is described as a lion-headed man, but as far as where the descriptions of it in my mythical resources, basically that's where it ends. Vishnu reincarnates whenever there's evil in the world, usually when there's like a really powerful demon, like in this case. And the term diva that you see in the description, diva is actually the generic word in Sanskrit for god. So basically it represents that any deity can't kill the demon that's being described here. But of the other reincarnations, there are several other ones. One of the most famous ones is Rama from the Ramayana, where he is actually reincarnated as a mortal to kill the Rakshasa Ravana. And speaking of Ramayana, Hanuman is also described in this. He is a monkey god. And the description of this, there really isn't much that described him. I think that they said that when he stormed Ravana's fortress, that his tail was actually set on fire. So what he did was actually leap from building to building and torched the entire palace. As far as his abilities, they sound really similar to the abilities associated in Chinese myth with Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. And in some translations of the Journey to the West, they often describe that the similarity is not coincidental, that Wukong actually descended from Hinduism's Hanuman. Next one, Jikokuten. The one thing I only know about him is basically his description as the Taoist deity Moli King, as god of the East. And the sword that you see is in Taoism is called Blue Cloud, and it's a really powerful magic sword. They said that he also has a ring associated with him. The way the sword is depicted is kind of stems from the Hindu Vajra, which is also what you see associated with Shochu-chen, and is basically kind of like a symbol of a thunderbolt or of law. So, moving on to the next one. Alright, Titan is basically the generic name for the old deities. Basically, the grandchildren of Chaos and also the children of Gaia. The term Titan is often is the name given to the really old gods. It also, as these were they were the ones that killed Uranus, their father, so they took over. Also in Persona 3 there is Saturnus, which is basically the Latin name for Kronos, the god of time, but also the youngest of the Titans, and also the father of the Olympic gods. There was a huge battle between the Titans and the Olympians to depose of them, as Kronos was the one who actually swallowed his children, excluding Zeus. Valkyrie is basically what is described here as a battle maiden that usually appears on the battlefield to take the souls of fallen heroes. The fallen heroes are called the Einherjar, if you remember from Valkyrie profile, and that carries on to it. Half of the Einherjar actually go to Freya, which is in her hall Folkvogr, and the other half actually go to Valhalla, which is the palace of or basically the barracks of the gods for the future fight in Ragnarok. One of the most famous of the Valkyries is Brumhild, which was described in the Nibelung epic poem, which is where Siegfried comes from, as she was imprisoned in a column of fire, or in a ring of fire. Rakshasa is basically like the Judeo-Christian version of a demon, and they're shapeshifters. They're very, very nasty beings. As they shapeshift, they also kill humans. There's a lot of things that are actually said about them that are often vile. For instance, a single touch can poison a human. Plus, they also spend their time around graveyards eating human flesh and corpses, and thus defiling them. The most famous of the Rakshasa is actually Ravana, which is mentioned in the Ramayana, who was the king of the Rakshasa and was slain by Rama, as he can only be killed by a mortal, which explains why they said Rakshasas are the enemies of the gods. So that pretty much does it for strength. This is pretty much all of them.